Hey, this is Kevin Hale with Kevin Hale Photography. I'm going to try to convince you in just a handful of minutes here why you should use Lightroom if you're not using Lightroom. I'm not trying to convince the aperture users to use Lightroom. I'm not trying to convince phase one users or whatever the really high-end fashion photography database programs are to switch over to Lightroom. Really, who I'm speaking to in this are the people who kind of the amateur photographers, and you realize you need to get a little bit better at managing your workflow, and you keep hearing people talking about Lightroom all the time. You feel like you're missing out on something. Let me just take a few minutes to show you a few of the things that what I find valuable about it, and that will then hopefully prompt some further investigation for you on why you should use this. So what is Lightroom? Why is that different than Photoshop? It's called Photoshop Lightroom. Is that, I always thought that was a little confusing, but I've heard them explain it, and it makes a little sense. Basically, what they intend Lightroom to be is the where you manage all of your raw photos and where you do tagging and sorting and some light editing, and where you would also do your printing and that kind of thing. It's the hub for all your photos. It's a photo-specific version of Bridge, and if you know what Bridge is just like a big file management software. But this is more for the photographer. It's called Lightroom because they're playing off of Darkroom, like where you develop your images and where you do all your real work after you've done the photography. And that's an appropriate description. Photoshop is where you take your images after you have done your basic editing, like you take an image like this, and I've done some color enhancements and stuff like that in Lightroom, and I found this one out of say 10 other images that looked just like it, where her finger was slightly different and they were all in sequence. And so I've used Lightroom to get it to that point. Then I took it into Photoshop, and then you can work on the skin and do some more elaborate edits at that point if you feel like you need to. But for a lot of photographers, you don't even really need Photoshop. You're going to have a lot of your functionality, and I'll show you a few of those elements here in a moment, why you would even want to go to Photoshop. Okay, so Lightroom is built off these modules, and library, develop, slideshow, print, and web. And as far as I know, since Lightroom 1, they have been the same modules. Now they've changed up in functionality. It's gotten better in different areas, and every version has been light years beyond the previous version. I love it. It's always like opening Christmas presents whenever you find out what the new feature set is going to be in the new Lightroom. And so I want to just show you what that looks like. So library module is like this is where when you import your photos into, and you've got them in a folder, you got them in this grid mode, you can do all kinds of stuff with it, but namely you can start taking photos and tagging them. And so let's say I want to tag this one, I want to call it city, and now that's tagged, and I want to go search every city tagged photo that I have throughout all my years of photography. It'll instantly pull up all those photos, which is immensely helpful. Let's also say that you've brought in a bunch of images and you see these white flags, and you're like, wow, when you're going through, I'll do it down here. You're going through and you're like, I'm gonna pick this photo right here. So you hit the P, and you're like, oh, I don't like that photo, and you hit the X. You can reject it. Now that photo is out of that. And so then you quickly go back in and you sort those photos out. You can if you picked this photo, say the pigeon, then you hit this filter, and now you're only showing the flagged ones. And so now the pigeon photo is in where all the other ones weren't. And it's a quick way of doing doing reviewing of your photos. And so after you've done a photo shoot and maybe taken 500 photos, and you want to quickly boil it back down to the 50 that you really think have promise, go through and pick them, reject all the blurry ones, sort them out, move them over. You're moving them from one pile to the next, and then you're kind of refining them from there. And so the library module allows you to take tons of photos and boil that down to very quickly into the ones that you think they have merit and how you want to adjust them. So that's an incredible starting place for explaining what Lightroom does. It is a way of sorting through and managing thousands and thousands of photos very quickly. So you've created all these folders, you've imported them, now you're picking them and selecting them. Maybe you give them a 5-star rating or a 4-star rating, and now you can start sorting them based on that, or you can search them based off of keywords. So let's say you take a photo, let's just take this pigeon photo. going to go into develop. That's the second feature. Developing is kind of like developing film. Now this is not a very good photo. It's kind of blurry. I would throw this picture away normally, but I just want to show you what you can do with it. And so the star of the show here in the develop module is what we call presets. And so presets are over on the left here. Presets are like preloaded instructions for your actual sliders over here on the right. These are your setting sliders. So if you kind of start messing with them, you see how much you can do with each one. So there's like a little workflow for that, and I've got a workflow for how I typically do that. I'm using this histogram and I'm using my eyes, and I'm like, well, okay, I'm going to change that. I'm going to add some contrast, a little vibrance, change the color temperature. Now there's a much different way of doing it. You know, I don't want to show you that right now because I don't have time, but I just wanted you to see that you know, you have all these amazing tools. You can get into really specific tone curve. You could just change it to black and white all of a sudden. You can change individual colors. There's like you know, lens correction stuff like lens vignetting. You see that a lot, and noise reduction filters and all this stuff that becomes really important. But the presets, back to that, where it's really exciting. So you start clicking on these presets. You see up here on the left, you have a preview menu, or rather a preview box, and that you just kind of scroll through, and you know, you're looking at that, and you know, see, as you scroll through, you don't even have to click on it, and you're seeing what it looks like. So as you see something you really like, let's say you really like that one, that orange garden, click on it, and you go, wow, okay, well, you know, that looked better in the preview menu. I'm going to come back up and try something else. So let's go back to 300 version 3. Well, I like that, but you know, it's real dark. So then you can go back in and you just start bumping things up, you know, like add in some fill light, put in the clarity, the mid-tone. Well, that's still too bright, you know, a little bit of black, whatever, you know, let's bring the saturation back up, that kind of thing. And so now you've got an image that maybe was a bad photo before, but now it's slightly interesting. So when you have a photo that has some promise and you do that, then you really are on the right path. And that has opened my eyes artistically, that there are a lot of photos that I initially took and I wasn't thinking that I was going to like the photo, and I didn't think there was anything special, and they ended up being maybe one of my favorites because I messed around with it later on and I processed it in a way that it became very fascinating to me. So it even starts to make you think ahead of time, wow, this picture I'm about to take would be a great photo for 300, you know, preset. And so these presets are all out on the web. You can grab a bunch of them for free. You can make your own. All they are presets. They're not like filters or anything like that. So they're free. So some people charge for them, I guess, but that's idiotic because all they are is just a set of little simple instructions over here that, you know, kind of accumulate. So that's the develop module. So there's a slideshow module, as you can see, and you can quickly go through and show your clients or show people your images. You can create a video out of it. That's pretty cool. There's a web module. Won't show you that, but basically you can create a website out of your images. The print module is fantastic. This is great if you want to print like 5x7s and stuff like that. Now you're using your software to control it rather than your printer. And I used to never be able to get it to look the way that it looked on the screen before, but now it's dead on because I'm controlling it through the software. So that's fantastic. I'll show you one more thing here with how you bring photos in. I've just inserted a memory card and it's pulled this card in. This is the import wizard. I just want to show you one thing. You bring these pictures in. I popped the card in, and I am pushing one button, the import button, and it's going to start. And the reason that's that way is because once you set it once, it'll retain the previous settings. So, you know, that's great. And I tell you, when I'm done shooting, I just pop the card in and go get dinner and whatever, come back, and it's sitting there ready for me to start tagging and stuff like that. So, you know, really great when you want to increase the speed of your workflow, and when you want to be more efficient and you want to multitask. Finally, let's just say you take this photo and you want to export that photo. So I want to export this photo. You have all these awesome export plugins, and so, you know, we've got Facebook, I got Flickr, And you can go in and change the setting. You say, I want it to go in this folder, I want it to go in that folder, and here's the resolution I want to use, some keywords, and then you hit export. And so if you kind of do the same thing every time, then you may only be touching one button and it take you 10 seconds, and you can export your photos into Facebook, for instance. And I've found that this is infinitely easier than using any other application for that, or trying to go through the website itself to export your photos to, let's say, Flickr. It's also really easy when I'm using my blog. So these are the things that I love about Photoshop, Lightroom, and I can't even begin to tap into the really cool features that are abundantly running throughout the program. But if you have any questions, feel free to email me at kevin@kevinhill.com or leave a comment wherever you view this video. Thanks a lot, and I hope you go give the 30-day free trial at Adobe a try.